listening to a special presentation of Not So Live from Asteroid G. I am Mike Finkelstein, and I am joined in the interview booth today by Guda632. Guda, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, Mike, I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I am doing great. You know me as Darkmoon on the Final Fantasy community, the Final Fantasy Randomizer Discord. That's where I know you from. When did you start up with there? Because I think it was, a little before when I joined?
I think so. It was, according to SRL, my first official race was sometime in late March of last year. I know I've been playing for a little bit before that, I think 3 or 4 seeds.
Yeah.
And then, first race was against Asteroid and Will Bloodworth and somebody, I think one fine day maybe. And I'm like, well, I'm out of my element. Here we go.
Time to get wrecked.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, all right, well, I can race these guys. It's fine. I've been posting some all right times in my practice seeds. I just started this. This should be fine. And then they threw Highlander flags at me, and I had no clue what was going on. And I'd played only last year's Swiss for 2 weeks, and I'm like, what's happening? And they all found Masa and just destroyed the seed. And I'm like, I beat Chaos with an ice sword. So it was good times.
How did you find the Final Fantasy Randomizer community? I mean, to speak from personal experience, I spent 2 years watching it on YouTube before I finally decided that when someone was like, "Hey, come to this website and do this," I'm like, "Well, okay, I guess I'll finally do it." What was your gateway into the community then?
100% YouTube. I was on YouTube just watching random video games for a while. While I was at work because I liked having background noise. I'm like, you know what I like having background noise of? I'm like, I like having background noise of Final Fantasy. So I ended up on Fiesel's old world record stream, which now watching Rando and playing Rando all the time, going back to vanilla with no speed hacks is just awful and no dash.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will make it to this king. Chug, 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 chug. But then off of the Fiesel video was something called Final Fantasy Randomizer, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I started watching it, and I think I watched all of the 2018 spring tournament in rapid succession in a week and a half, and I'm like, I know this game inside and out. I played this through 3 times when I was a kid, and know the enemies, and I'm like, I can do this. I can play this game. And then I got into the community and I'm like, I don't know these enemies.
No.
The amount of knowledge for Final Fantasy Randomizer is absolutely insane. And that's part of the last year, just getting into the game is learning some of the ins and outs and learning some of the very small details
fine details, yeah.
That'll cause you to not wipe and actually maybe win a race.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. And the stuff that the randomizer can do now is ridiculous. I still don't like entrance and floor shuffle. I'll play it, but I'm not competitive.
No, I mean, when I play certain flag sets like entrance and floor shuffle, where all the entrances in the game are randomized, and then all the floors in all the dungeons are mixed together, and depending upon the flags you play with, you can then have deep towns and everything else mixed in there, so they're not just shallow first level floors, but sometimes the town can be 4 or 5 or 12 floors deep. Hell, I think we saw one where because Onrak has a dungeon within it, there was a 8-floor deep Onrak that then led to 4 floors that led to a split that led to Elfland. And I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking crazy. That's fun to play when you're not in a race, or if you don't care.
Spells app actually made one of the challenge seeds the challenge was to only go into Corneria Castle or Corneria. And off of that was the Sea Split, the Marsh Split. Elfland was down there, so you got level 3 and 4 spells. And all the way at the bottom was the Temple of Fiends. And he gave you the free orbs, so it was like a Chaos Rush style. But it was this is nuts.
Insane.
All you have to do is go in one entrance, and you'll get all your levels. You'll get all the spells you need to beat the game, and you can go down and beat Chaos. It's just nuts.
And what's really nuts is he did that randomized from the game itself. So how many fucking, seeds do you think he had to roll before he found one that was worthwhile?
Oh, it had to have been a lot.
Yeah,
I don't
hundreds.
know. I don't know which program he's using. I know the devs have a program where they can kind of see how everything is together, but it had to have been, just an insane amount of seeds that he went through to find that.
Yep. Or he just randomly found it one time and was like, this was fun. Let's put this out there for everyone else to play.
That's also possible because there's so many times when I find a seed and I'm like, oh, this seed was a lot of fun, or
Uh-huh.
this seed was god awful. So this
Yeah.
needs to be shared. And like those are the only two you have. Is like this seed's a lot of fun, or this seed was literally the worst fucking thing in the world.
I have played in my share of both. Honestly, I think the funny thing is you and I played recently, just for like a random After Dark challenge seed that we did together. The quote unquote platypus hell, because
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
for people who aren't in the know from the community, we have the duckling program that I touched upon in the last podcast with Greg Lee Puff. The ducklings are our new player showcase. Anyone who wants to come in can join, become a quote unquote duckling, and play for a while until they're ready to get their flippers wet and then jump out of the pond into the next level. And then for a little while there, we were running duckling tournaments that then led to what we called the platypus tournament, which was all the ducklings that have grown up and maybe want to step out of the pond, but maybe aren't quite ready to race against the old pros that we have, like Edgeworth and everyone else. And in both the last round of the duckling tournament and then in the platypus tournament, we had a flag set that they hated beyond all compare. And then for our platypus hell seed, we took that flag set and made it even worse.
As a side note, sort of made it worse.
Sort of.
The thing that made the platypus day 4 and the duckling day 4
So
seeds
bad.
super awful was
Uh-huh.
that you got to start with only one character.
This is true.
When you get to start with 4, it makes everything so much better.
It did move
And
faster, but it was also, we tried to buff things a little to make it worse, and I don't know if we did or not, honestly.
well, with so there's an entirely basically new style of playing Final Fantasy Randomizer called Spellcrafter and Enemizer,
Uh-huh.
and it takes all of the enemies and all of the spells and just says we're not using these anymore.
Yeah, we're
Here's an
chucking them out the
entire
window.
new batch,
Yep.
and like that can just get super trolly. Like
Yeah, so to expound upon that, the War Mech is the hidden secret boss of Final Fantasy. Like, if you play in the later ones and you've played Final Fantasy VII, there's the weapons. War Mech is basically Final Fantasy I's quote unquote weapon. So if you're playing Enemizer has to use the sprites that are available in the game. So you can be in level 1 and you find a quote unquote mech right outside Canary, and you're like, oh my god, War Mech! It's not War Mech. It's basically an imp with a different name.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think every seed has bums
Yeah.
is the big thing to get you off the ground running, but the XP on it is bad, and
Yes.
like it can be fun. It's not something that I want to play all the time either. Like I kind of like vanilla, and that's actually what Greg and I played this morning was a type of vanilla that had basically just randomized enemies, but everything else was vanilla spells, vanilla prices, vanilla towns, and it was a lot of fun. Like we went back to our roots and just kind of remembering the game the way it used to be.
So you mentioned that you grew up with Final Fantasy. Did you play the various Final Fantasies, like 2 and 3, which were really 4 and 6? Have you stuck with the series? Did you play other stuff growing up? What is your gaming history?
So I started on Final Fantasy 1 and then on the Nintendo, and then ended up playing Mystic Quest on the Super Nintendo, which I thought was a lot of fun. It's got, like, as far as I've seen in communities, it's kind of bipolar. Like, people either love it or hate it.
It's a
I loved
different
it.
kind of game.
Yeah, I loved it when I was a kid. I thought it was fantastic. And then I didn't get back around to Final Fantasy again until 7.
Hmm.
I never had a Super Nintendo growing up. I went over to Sega Genesis, and then I actually went to Sega Saturn after that.
Well, there's a winner right there.
Dude, Sega Saturn was so good, except like the memory cards were broken, and I thought the games were awesome. Like Nights into Dreams, so good.
There were enough games that were worth like continuing that they remade them or brought them over to other systems that didn't fail.
Right, exactly. So I mean, I thought that the Saturn was really good. I thought it was well done. It kept a similar controller. I really liked it, and I'm so sad that it got completely squashed by PlayStation and then Xbox. But I thought it was way ahead of its time. It just was apparently too far ahead of its time.
Well, and there's a whole storied history of Sega mismanagement in there as well. I've read Wikipedia articles and other things about it. that kind of
Yeah,
explain all of it. Like, Sega didn't really know what to do with the success they had, and they kind of bungled themselves into a corner. So
yeah, and that was what was kind of sad because like the graphics were so much better. Like I switched after Saturn fell off the face of the earth. I switched to PlayStation. I'm like the Saturn graphics were better. Like I don't know why people didn't like this, but yeah. Then I switched over to PlayStation, started playing 7. Probably put, oh god, 300 plus hours into Final Fantasy 7 because why not?
that way,
And
yeah.
like the game was so good, and of course you have to get multiple mime materials, so all you can do is just meme splash Knights of the Round like a crazy person, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then mass
you set
and
up
then
4 of them, and then you just go get like a coffee or something because the game's going to play itself for a while.
yeah, exactly. Master materia, and like it's been a long time since I played 7, but I remember loving it, and I guess I can take that back. I played it for about 10 minutes the other day because I found my PlayStation, found 7, found a memory card that had a 79-hour save on it.
Jesus. Okay, I shouldn't say anything because you say, like, I put 300 hours into it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's awful. Except, I managed to get my Chrono Trigger cart up to a level star because I played I don't know how many playthroughs on that. So I know exactly what you did. I just did it with a different game.
But I think the best thing about grabbing a memory card from when you were 13 is looking at the names of the people in the game, and you go, I haven't talked to that person in 20 fucking years.
Yes. Yeah,
And
I feel you.
going, oh yeah, I had a crush on her. That's why I kept naming her Tifa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course I played 8, then I played 9. It took a while to play 10 because after PlayStation I switched over to Xbox and never did PlayStation 2 until I went to Iraq when I got a PlayStation 2 Mini, and then I played 10. I played like 2 hours of 10 too, and I'm like, I don't like dressing up this much.
You don't want to play Pretty Pretty Princess?
No, not really. Like, I thought it was really cool until you couldn't get him naked, and then I'm like, if I'm dressing up, why can't I dress him down? This is dumb.
Let's go online for that.
Also, that's a 19-year-old kid talking. So.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, I've met 38-year-olds that are doing the same thing, so let's not kid ourselves about that.
So I've heard really good things about 10 too. Like some of the people, like you just have to actually get into the system and you can cheese it, and like apparently the storyline's okay and the system is super unique and awesome. It's just not my cup of tea. And then I think it was 12 because 11 I believe was online.
11's online, and then 14 is online.
Yeah, so I played 12. And I didn't get all the way through 12. Then I played 13, which I actually enjoyed, despite its linear nature.
Very linear for like the first 3/4 of the game or something.
Yeah, like the first 2 out of 3 discs or whatever is completely linear. And then you get to the bottom and the open world, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like, you get to kill an Adamantoise. Played halfway into 13 too, and was like, eh.
Yeah.
And then played 15 for probably like 25 hours, which I thought was really good. I spent like 5 hours fishing because I'm like, it's winter. I can't go fishing. I'm just going to fucking fish. It was good. Like, I like 15. So I need to go back. I know Final Fantasy 6 just got a randomizer, and one of our good friends, Zenobian, is really into it. So I kind of want to get into the 6 rando, but I kind of also want to play 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I like some of them. I haven't actually really played that much of 4 or 6, but I do love watching the Final Fantasy 4 randomizers, both the Lunarian Shuffle and Free Enterprise. The one that I really got hooked on because of the PlayStation 1 and the Anthology Collection was Final Fantasy 5.
Okay.
It's not the story itself. Story's okay. The game actually kind of feels a little plotting in places, but it's that job system with all the weird shit that you can do. That is hella fun.
Oh, speaking of job system, one thing that I did forget to mention is Tactics. My second favorite all-time Final Fantasy game is Tactics.
Yeah, I know a lot of
Tactics
people who love
is so good. The story is good. The jobs are good. The 2 major glitches in there are really good. The speedrun is amazing to watch.
I can't. I understand people love that game. I can kind of see the appeal of it. I can't get into it. It's never once hooked me.
No math skill though. I will not ever jump in with the math skill. Like that just seems super cheaty and cheese. So
Yeah.
no, I will. I was gonna learn the speed run of it, and then now spring tournament's coming around, and I'm like, well, I guess I
There
still
goes
have to
that.
stick around. Have to stick around with this for another 10 weeks.
Yeah, you get to keep playing this for a little while until you find something else. Yeah, the one that I'm tinkering with right now, and I got to see, like, I got to watch other people do it so I can figure out how to play it quickly, is the Chrono Trigger randomizer, the Jets of Time. Because that one basically
Okay.
makes it into an open world randomizer. And I played a seed yesterday, and I didn't even finish it. And I was like 3.5 hours in before I finally managed to unlock the last dungeon. And I'm like, this was fun. I need to finish it later. I don't like 3.5 to 5.5 hours for a randomizer is a bit much for an investment for me. I've gotten spoiled by Final Fantasy where you can do it in an hour and a half.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I look at things too, especially when
Yeah.
I'm looking at new video games. Like, can I sit down and get some meaningful progress done in like 2 hours?
Yeah.
Because if a randomizer seed takes me longer than 2 hours, I'm probably just gonna, well, I might go through it and just like rage play it. But likely, if I can't finish it with another 15 minutes, I'll be like, screw it, leaving.
Yeah.
Because like 2 hours, if I can sit down, play a game in 2 hours, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the reason with the Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger randomizer that I'm like 3.5 hours is surprisingly long is because like the Final Fantasy IV free enterprise, you can play through an entire seed of that in an hour and a half. So I need to figure out what it is that the speedrunners are doing that I'm not for me to be able to figure it out. But that's a randomizer I'd love to add to my repertoire. And I don't know, like you were talking Final Fantasy VI, is that one that you're looking at really getting into? Is the randomizer for that?
I have to actually like watch Xeno play and watch some other people play because I never played the vanilla game,
Mm-hmm.
and I know in our community with the Final Fantasy One randomizer, there's a lot of people who never played vanilla. They just jump in and start playing the randomizer and do it,
Yeah.
and that's fantastic. I couldn't
I don't
do
think
it.
I can
Like
do that now.
I've looked at jumping into the Crystallis randomizer and the way that their logic is. Apparently, don't quote me on this, just a little bit that I've gathered from talking to people is like you need to learn some of the glitches because the glitches are built into
Yeah.
the logic, and if you can't do the glitches, you literally cannot finish a seed.
Well, it's like with the Legend of Zelda NES randomizer. If you can't do the screen wrap glitch for it, you can't finish the seed because they just assume you can do it. The logic of the game doesn't even care.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think it's the Z1M1, the fully reconstructed randomizer that does the Zelda 1, Metroid 1 randomizer, which is fun to watch. I couldn't play it because I suck at both those games. I think they even expect that you can do like room wraps and so forth that in the Metroid glitches. So it's like some of those randomizers, they're just like, yeah, you're just going to do glitches and that's just what's going to happen.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I like I played a bit of the Mega Man 2 randomizer, and you can do the glitches.
Mhm.
The glitches are fine,
Yep.
and it makes you go like I think 2 to 3 minutes faster overall on any given seed.
As you do
But
like
you don't-
the out of bounds quote unquote that pulls you the zips
Yep,
basically.
the zips.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can do zips, or they have plenty of zipless runners too, who are decently competitive because they're just that fast zipless.
Yeah.
And like you don't have to learn the zips. I mean, like I said, it'll help you, but you don't have to learn them.
Yeah.
So like Goodwood zip would be awful to learn. I've tried watching and learning and like following people on how to do it, and I'm like, oh my god, there's just so much because you have to like memorize the rest of the level.
Game. Yeah. You have to memorize the whole level because you're basically playing an entire half a level on a single screen as you accidentally like displace your screen position from your character position and are just wandering through. It's fucking insane. Like I see them do it and it's amazing and I can't.
And what's even more amazing is like I watched one of the guys who lost it in the middle of the zip and then somehow refound it and continued the zip, and I'm like,
wow,
what?
How?
Because he's one of the vanilla speedrunners, if I recall correctly, and he knows the game that well that he can like screw up a zip and then fix his screw up and just like get into the exact right pixel location, and I'm like, this is something I'll never be able to do. I do not have the kind of time to dedicate to learning that kind of ins and outs. I'll casually play MM2, the MM2R, because it's fun, but competitively, absolutely not. Those Mega Man speedrunners are nuts.
Oh God, yeah. I think I could say that about a lot of the speedrunners we have, though. I mean, one nice thing about Final Fantasy is that, like, so far for the NES, especially with the way we play, because we don't do the one big glitch, which is the stairs to chaos end credits glitch. I don't even know if that actually works in the randomizer or if they shut it off.
It doesn't work in the American version of the game.
Okay,
It's only that's a Japanese glitch.
Yeah, so that's the only major glitch I know in that game, and the rest of it's pretty glitchless, all things considered. Despite being really poorly coded in a lot of ways, there aren't a lot of really exploitable glitches in the US version of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I don't think there's any at all, and like even their overflow stuff is basically fixed. Like, you can't overflow things, and you can't underflow things, and the only and it's not a glitch; it's a soft lock. Is when you take too many pillars in the Castle of Ordeals, like you get soft lock because the game runs out of memory.
And that's even fixed in the randomizer now. It actually starts deleting them from the backside of the memory, so you can't ever soft lock anymore. So,
right. So
yeah.
Like other than that, it was more broken things than it was things that were glitched.
Yep.
Which is just crazy, and like there's almost no way to sequence break other than going down and getting your tail early, which isn't really a sequence break. Yeah,
and
you can.
The most open-ended the game gets is where you decide to do Volcano. That's
right.
it. That's it. Because Volcano doesn't, like, as soon as you have the canoe, you can go to Volcano, but Volcano doesn't have a key item in it you have to get. Like, the floater is sitting over at the eye, the tail is sitting at Ordeals, and then the slab is sitting at the mermaid area. And you could go do mermaids and then bail on Kraken and go fight the last 3 fiends in any order you want, but you're already at the sea shrine when you go to mermaids. May as well do Kraken at that point. Like, most of it, except for Carrie, you kind of have to do in the order it gives you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of sequence breaking, and like you get through Lich, and you have to do Lich first, because if you don't do Lich, you can't get the canoe.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a very, very well constructed game from the glitching standpoint.
Yeah, and you can't. I haven't seen anyone manage to figure out how to get into a wall, to get outside the wall, to go to a different map. I'm not even certain that's possible because of the way that the maps loop on themselves. Technically, I think
they found one glitch recently.
Yeah?
I follow the MM1 speedrunners community, and Gyre found it. It is if the canal is still there, and you are sailing into the canal, you can encounter manip.
Oh,
like
it'll kind of wiggle yourself into it.
No, so you don't actually go through it, but it senses that something is there, and like he was showing where the memory was, and it just like insanely fast cycles where the memory goes for, I believe it's encounters.
Okay.
And I don't know if they've found a way to exploit that in any way, shape, or form.
So they don't know what it does yet as far as breaking the game open. They just know it exists.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it really will break the game unless you can figure out a way to like constantly get encounter 8 encounters very, very quickly to get more XP. But it seems like it'd be a lot slower than just, taking Kaizokus and then ogres.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that game is never going to break wide open the way that other games like other games like Zelda 1 and Super Metroid, or like Zelda 3 Link to the Past, where you can like do stupid accidental out of bounds up on like Death Peak or something, and then suddenly like screen wrap your way into other areas and like go outside of bounds and dungeons and so forth. It's Final Fantasy, the way it's coded, is surprisingly stable for being such an unstable game.
Considering, I think one guy programmed the whole thing too, which is just nuts. Especially, especially when you look at the type of coding, because it is old school assembly code. And I've looked at what some of our devs have put in, and I just go, man, I haven't programmed in assembly since like 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And just looking at it, I go, God, this sucks. This is so bad. Like,
so bad. Yeah.
I remember doing it, I remember hating it, and I remember exactly how awful it was, and that's why, our devs are amazing, and they put the time in, and they're really fantastic at assembly, and they know what they're doing, and it is definitely not something that I would, jump in and do.
No. 100% no. Like, I help them out by doing, like, graphics and tooltips and maybe do some like web stuff for them from time to time. But like the things they do, I make suggestions and I'm like, okay, you guys are brilliant. You go do whatever people are doing, and I'm gonna sit over here and make it look pretty for you. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any of the graphical stuff in assembly is just amazing, and that's why like even getting into like Nintendo and 8-bit and then 16-bit and then like slowly working their way up, like it's just absolutely phenomenal what like how far our technology has come. And like I just recently downloaded the VB Studio, the free one, for shits and giggles, because I'm like, all right, I haven't programmed in a while, I want to see like what's changed. Everything has changed. Like so VB Studio has like a way to do Android apps, to do iPhone apps, and like it's got all the stuff just like built in. And like back in the day, you had to make your own functions and like program everything from scratch, and now like half that stuff is built in. I don't know what it does yet because I don't know anything about modern programming, but if I ever get the time, I might relearn how to do that.
That sounds cool. So let's broaden out a little further afield. So outside of video games, I know you alluded to fishing there. What are your hobbies like outside of video games, and what other things interest you?
Oh, outside of video games, well, I'm a family man, so I've got a couple of kids, and that takes up the majority of my time. But I absolutely have to have hobbies, otherwise I go insane. So one of the big ones is bowling. I go to nationals every year. So this year's in Reno. So I'll be heading out there in about a month and a half. Yeah. So I got a team that I've been with for a few years, and we've placed not high, but we've placed enough that we've made money the last, I think, two or 3 years.
Nice.
So that's been exciting. We're hoping eventually we can get competitive enough to be with the big guys, but that's tough. I'm in Wisconsin, around the Milwaukee area, and there's just so many good bowlers around here. It's crazy. So the competition around here is already tough as it is, and then you get to nationals, and Milwaukee usually has 2-3 teams in the top 10 every year. So it's fun. Other than that, fishing, hunting's a big one. It caused me some heartache this last fall, not only because I froze my ass off in a tree, missed a big buck, and then had to try and play Final Fantasy on 2 meg internet.
I remember that. There was some race you were in, like one of the duck races or something, and you had to try and figure out how to show up for it. Yep.
I'm like, guys, my internet's gonna be awful. But yeah, because I didn't get nearly as many deer as I wanted to this year. I got 2 both in gun season, but bow season I was kind of skunked out. Hopefully, though, this coming fall I can start changing it up and get out of Wisconsin and test out some other states, maybe Indiana. That could be fun.
Yeah, come on down, hang out with us. I mean, I'm not going to go hunting myself, but yeah, you come on down and hang out down here, and then do what you do.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Share some meat with you guys. Like,
hell yeah.
So, and I've started getting more into cooking. I'm not fantastic at it yet, but I'm slowly learning. And venison is absolutely fantastic for a diet. Even though it's a red meat, it is about the leanest red meat you can possibly have. It's so good.
Yeah, I love the taste of venison, and most of what I've had of venison is surprisingly tender, all things considered.
Yes, it is very tender. It is. The problem with venison is it's very, very easy to overcook it because it's so dense as a meat. There's not a whole lot of fat on it. So if you overcook it at all, then it's just like meh. And that's where a lot of people end up getting it wrong. Is they're like, oh, we have to just cook the crap out of this because it's game meat. Well, no, you don't. Be a little easy with the fire. Let it turn the heat down on the grill a little bit. Let the juices kind of soak in, and wrap it in some bacon.
If you eat that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Looking ahead, as we slowly come towards the end of this, as we've been talking for like a half an hour, and I talked for over an hour before that with the previous podcast I recorded.
Oh, we can go all night, man. I'm cool with that.
I don't think my voice could do it. I'm already like,
oh no, just grab some tea. I got some tea that I've been here. So, and just sit there and drink. All I have to say is that after last Tuesday, I shouldn't have a voice either.
How long did you commentate for all those races?
I only did yours.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
But
the 4.5 hour slog.
yeah, the 4.5 hour slog of me talking about Tremors.
You know, there's a part of me that really wishes I'd been in the booth for you with you for that instead of actually playing the fucking thing. Because I gotta tell you, that probably would have been way more fun.
Yeah, dude, it was a good time, and Cyrus was fun. But he had obviously done comms on the match before, so it was.
He's insane.
Yeah, you could tell he was a little bit tired, but then like 2 o'clock in the morning rolled around, and I was also really fucking tired. Like, so it was a good time. And speaking of getting into the booth, you and I will get to finally do comms together on Friday, which is going to be super fun.
Yep. I know Sonny Wrath wanted to join up with us on that, but he hasn't actually signed up for it yet, so it may just be the two of us.
Oh, and that's absolutely fine. I know I was just going to razz Sonny a lot because he knows so much about the mechanics of the game that it's fun to just kind of give him a little shit. And I love Sonny. Sonny is amazing, so I'm sure he would take it all in stride, and I think it'd be a good time. Even if it's just you and me, man, it's going to be fantastic.
Oh, it's going to be a great time. So I asked this of Gregory Puff when he was here, and then of course Danny jumped in, and I asked her as well in the last podcast. Who are your picks for the spring tournament coming up? Who do you think's going to take it?
My picks for the spring tournament. Well, my favorite would be Cece, but she has not signed up yet, so I don't know if she's going to sign up.
Yeah, right, for those that are unaware, Crab Cakes is actually part of Team Red Hat. That was the group of the five of us that played in the OSV tournament last year. And Guda, you were on there with me for that one. So we have a special connection to Crab Cakes.
Yep. You, me, Crab Cakes, Zenobian, and Tyrannex, and it's been a really good group, and I'm glad that the five of us have stuck together for the last few months after OSV, because it's a good group of people that feel comfortable chatting strategy and chatting life with.
Yep.
Other than that, if CC doesn't end up in the tournament, it's got to be Spellzap. I mean, Spellzap is so fast at this game, and he's the current Iron Goal Heavy Metal champ. So I mean, with Spellzap up there, I think he's going to be tough to beat. 2 out of 3. I don't know if anybody's going to actually beat him other than CC. Edge might come close if he signs up. Ailmarkin and Thunder are both up there as well. But this Platypus class, man, is nuts.
It is. Oh, it so is. Like, we joined right after they joined, and I mean, personally, and I don't mind this. I don't mind admitting it, and I have no ego about it whatsoever. The Platypus class before us easily outclasses us. Spellzap and Thunder and Ailmarkin are just crazy good at the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's Gregory Puff and Dangwoo, and then there's me and Caleb. I mean, and the crazy thing is we're not bad at this game.
No.
But there are people who are just so much faster, and I remember one of the Discord and Twitch groups that I was with for a little while. I signed up and said, "Hey, do you guys want to come and watch me play Final Fantasy Randomizer for a seed?" And I had 20 people in chat, and none of them had seen the randomizer before. And when I was playing, they're like, "Dude, you are so good at this game." And this was, I don't know, last June. Yeah. And I'm like, I am fucking awful at this game. It was right after spring tournament. I had done nothing but Swiss seeds, and I'm just I was still doing duckling seeds, and that's it. No challenge, no async, just trying to get a feel for the game. And they're like, "Your menuing is so fast," and I'm like, "You think my menuing is fast? Shit."
Yeah, right. Go check out Spellzap or Crab Cakes.
Yeah, let's point you to an Artea video, and you won't even see a menu, man.
My God, yeah, no, the old class of Final Fantasy randomizer players, Artea and Ice Blue and Salty Fry and all them. Oh, I feel outclassed by them, and I still think Spellzap could beat all of them at this point.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast some of these people are, and SRL wise, even though SRL doesn't matter, I think I'm 21st or 22nd, something like that, and I'm I don't feel that fast.
I'm still in the 50s, but I will admit that at this point, mostly I've been playing with the Discord race bot instead because of what we've been doing, and it's just meh. SRL Speedlearns Live has their own weird scoring system, and Sometimes you can be away for a couple months, jump back, and suddenly you get like 200 points just for participating. Other times you're off for like a year and you jump back in no matter how good you are. It's like, here's 3 points. Welcome back to the game.
Yeah, like I know Salty Fry came back and he won a race. Just came back, hadn't played I think in like a year, and then won a race, and all of a sudden was like, bam, straight back up to over 500 from like, I don't know, 300 or something like that. I'm like, wow.
Yep.
And I don't know what their algorithm is, but to me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's magic and fairy dust is all it is, and somehow they said, yeah, it works, it's great, don't worry about it.
Yeah. But what can you do?
So, anything else you're looking forward to for this year, for like the game or anything else coming up?
Well, at some point I need to figure out some new video games. Like I got Monster Hunter World a little over a year ago, and that game is a ton of fun, and I don't get a chance to play it nearly enough. And I need to go back to diversifying what I was playing. Buddy of mine's been trying to get me into Path of Exile 4 forever, and I played it for like 2 hours one day, and I'm like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like, it's a kind of Diablo-esque, and I was a big fan of it. But a while ago, it was a free game on Xbox Live. It's called Victor Vran, and it's a lot like the Diablo games. And just on Xbox, I'd use my controller, which I'm total controller player. I haven't played with keyboard and mouse in years.
Yep.
But the game was absolutely nutso fun. Like, I have no idea why. I just like, what do I want? I want a gigantic hammer, and I want to fucking hit vampires with it.
You know, this sounds like my kind of game.
literally what I did for like 20 hours. Then I found Final Fantasy Randomizer, and I'm like, no.
My new obsession. Yeah.
Yep.
I will not lie. I love the Diablo games. I think they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I played Diablo 2 when I was younger. I've not played Diablo 3. And it's probably for the same reason why I, bought Skyrim and then only played it twice.
Yeah.
And in those 2 times that I played it, I probably played it for 20 hours. Because I pick it up and I go, oh man, I'm like, I have so many skills I have to learn. I want to like master destruction magic today. So I just run around like fucking hitting things as hard as I can with fireballs. And then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I got destruction magic down. What did I accomplish today?
Jack,
I got destruction magic down, and I found 87,000 other quests that I need to do. What was the main quest again? I don't know. Should I restart? No. Let's open up the entire map so I can fast travel everywhere.
But that's Skyrim. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, I did the same. Like, I did it with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wind that other people did with Skyrim, which is the thing of, oh, here's where the main quest is. It's over this way. I'm going to fuck off in this other direction now for 80 hours and do everything other than the actual quests. Like, go and unlock shrines and go talk to people. I'm going to spend 3 hours, like, playing with my horse. I don't fucking care about any of the rest of this goddamn game. I'm just going to fuck off over here for a while, and the game will take care of itself eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And that's... I love those games, but I hate those games because I would literally just sit there for like 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
And it was all before I had kids.
Yeah.
Or when the kids were gone. Because I'm like, what can I do today? You know what I can do? I can sit down with like a gallon of water and no food and just fucking play video games from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Yep. And then at 8 o'clock at night, you go, I'm a little hungry. Yep. And you throw a pizza in and then you keep playing.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that. I'll play for like 6 hours and go, I'll just DoorDash some Chinese food and I'll go right back to playing for the rest of the day. And it's like, I'll just buy enough Chinese food that I don't actually have to get up from my couch except to go use the restroom. That's it. And then you just do it the whole day. And it's part of the reason why I'll tell you I haven't, even though I've owned it for like a year and a half, why my copy of Spider-Man 4 is still sitting in like, or the PS4 Spider-Man is just sitting shrink-wrapped in its box. Because I know the second I open that open world Spider-Man superhero game, my wife will basically be a divorcee for like, a week and a half. So,
yep.
Yeah. She's like, I hope you enjoyed being married. It's not going to be anytime soon that you get to see me again. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and that's So one of the things that I used to do with my oldest son a few years ago, Disney Infinity came out with
Oh
like
yeah.
a Skylanders type thing, and it was amazing. Like the games that were on there were like super fun for kids and super easy because it was just like fucking mashing X the whole time or mashing A or whatever. And like it was a ton of fun, and he
Uh-huh.
got really good at it, and it was awesome. And then I had even littler ones, and yeah, I got yelled at like, you can't play video games all day, and I'm like, watch me. Can no longer play video games all day.
Oh, that's so sad. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
you.
like that's one of the great things with having kids is getting them into that video game culture. I also got my 10-year-old into playing D&D. He was 8 at the
Nice.
time, but
Nice.
that's one of the things that I also used to do quite often was that a whole start at 6 o'clock, game until like 4 o'clock in the morning with D&D because when you create your own world and you got stuff to do, you got
Yeah.
stuff to
You
do.
got stuff to do. You got to go do it. That world ain't going to save itself, guys. I got to go out there and I got to save it for it. That's what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what better way to hang out with 4 or 5 different friends and than as fake people.
Oh yeah. I feel you. I mean, there's a reason why I wrote my own game, so
Yeah, and that's whenever I DM, that's what I do too. I've never been a big fan of the pre-made stuff.
yeah.
So I try to make my own worlds and make my own adventures and try and do things that way because I think it's better, and then nobody has any clue what's going to happen. And on top of it, if I get really hammered, I can just be a dick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the fun of not playing on a module is that you just have a vague idea of what you're going to do and you just kind of let them wander, and whenever they get kind of close to whatever it was you vaguely envisioned, you're like, "Cool, let's go do this now." And then if they decide to just go like with Breath of the Wild, they just decide to go fuck off another direction for like 80 hours. You're like, "Cool, we'll ignore this over here. We'll come up with something else for you to do. That's not a big deal. Whatever."
Right.
Yeah.
And like the last group I had, they wrote everything down. So like I was consulting their notes. They're like, they get into a town and I don't have half the stuff written down. I'm like, all right, we're just gonna figure something out here. And they're like, well, what's happening with this? And I'm like, all right, some cultist comes in. They're like, and then like 4 adventures later, they're like, hey, whatever happened to the cultist in that town? I'm like, you're gonna have to go back and find out. I don't know.
I literally don't know. Let's go find out. No, yeah,
Yep.
I was Tyrannix, who actually lives in town near here. He wanted to play a module he picked up for 5th edition of D&D, and I'm going to tell you, I fucking hate D&D, just in general. I find that most games of D&D end up being murder hobo dungeon slogs. That's all the game is designed for. And the few times you try and do actual character interaction, the game doesn't really have the skills to understand what it is that you're doing because it's primed for murder hobo dungeon slogging. That's all it understands. So I mean, I wrote my own game to try and get around that and put an emphasis on the non-combat kind of stuff. Combat's still there, but you can do other shit. But then he sucks me back into D&D 5th edition so I can run a damn module that he picked up. And like they played through the opening area, which was a dungeon crawl. And then they wandered into a town and like, okay, I want to go talk to these people. And I'm flipping through the module going, these people don't have any dialogue. They give you one piece of trivia and then they basically clam up like they're an RPG character in Final Fantasy. I have one thing I say. Here's what I say. I have one thing
Bubbles.
I say. Yeah, exactly.
Bubbles.
Exactly. The same fucking thing all over again. I hear
Oh, that's
Magus's
awful.
castle is near. Magus's army is waiting near the bridge. And then you talk to him again. I hear Magus's army is waiting near the. Like, what the fuck is this? So I'm fucking pulling shit out of my ass left and right to try and make characters and make them interesting because I'm like, they actually want to interact. And I don't want to discourage that because it's this or we go back to murder hoboing, okay?
Right.
So, thanks, D&D.
So that's where I never started on D&D. I started with Rifts, and Rifts was fucking amazing. Like there are so many different skills in that game, and like you
it's pretty
have
customizable.
oh yeah, it's insanely customizable. So like you don't need, so instead of being like, I'm going to roll a diplomacy check, and then like literally your entire campaign can be diplomacy checks and nobody actually talks to each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like diplomacy versus diplomacy, and it's like, you
those.
win. You convince people of things.
Yeah.
What do you convince them of? today I'm going to convince them that I'm a fairy. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'm a fairy. Instead, you just get like all sorts of random, like, oh, I know 83 languages at like 22%. And then you just like, you're talking and also just like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot like real life where if you sort of know a language and you're like listening to people like, oh yeah, like I can understand that. And then you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's it's something like my game uses, some basic points like, diplomacy or bluff or anything,
Mhm.
but there's a variety of them across the whole branching of it, and it's how you use them and the context you use them, and then like there's powers and things you can use to buff them. There's like a fine-tuned level of grain to it. But there's a lot of games out there like I like Vampire, but Vampire is very basic. I like
Mhm.
I played so much AD&D Second Edition, and that's pretty much the most basic game you can get. A lot of them are just like very basic, very stripped down ones, and at a certain point, I just don't understand how people find that interesting. I
Yeah,
don't.
there's like you need a good DM or GM depending on what you're playing to
Yeah.
like add into the dialogue and like create spicy things and
Mm-hmm.
like mash things together and like that's one of the reasons why Rifts was so good. Like even if you were like doing murder hobo things, you could do insanely crazy murder hobo things through
Yeah.
time. Like and like there's so much you can do and there's so much that you can customize and there's so many different worlds. Like I created a drunken demon queller because that's all he did. He carried a keg on his back everywhere.
That's
And the only
awesome.
time that he could kill a demon properly was when he was super ass hammered drunk. And then he
Yeah.
got murdered by a demon because he was drunk. But it was a good
Awesome.
story.
That's awesome.
Or my favorite character of all time, the crazy who was afraid of doors. Like that was his fear. His fear was doors, and it was like a little bit more in depth, like fear of the unknown.
That's
So it
amazing.
was like he could walk through like a beaded door if somebody would open it, you could see inside of it. So like even cave entrances were kind of like if it was a super dark cave, there's no way he's entering it. He's like, I don't know what's on the other side of that. Fuck no. So
That's
instead,
awesome.
he dove through windows. It was so good. Like, and it was just a dynamic, and like he had to get knocked out twice to just go into a dungeon.
Oh my
Like,
god. That's amazing. I love
and
it.
it, yeah, and it's stuff like that that like those little character interactions that really make a campaign, and like making the your player characters think and the DM think and stuff like that. Like that to me that's the role playing. I did a Mutants and Masterminds campaign as just a player character, and it was a ton of fun because it's basically like superheroes, and
Hmm.
you can do like super fun things, and like it was very 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 basic though. Like you had points, can you beat points? The end. Like
Yeah.
there was nothing fancy about it, but like I also had a good GM who or DM who was able to like make interactions fun, and you had to use like so they had like a techie person and a punchy person, and like it was a whole lot like Avengers stuff where you don't necessarily just beat things with your fist.
Yeah.
Like you can like tech things and do surveillance and like espionage and like it's fun things like that.
I like it. I will say one of the most interesting games that I have played in, and this is actually promoting my brother-in-law Mason Williams and his website. Currently, Future Comic. That's I believe. Well, it's actually his web address is futurecomic.com, but you can do a Google search for Future Comic. He likes to make random gaming modules from scratch. He's just crazy and do stuff like that. And he did this one called Disco Inferno, where you had like a single D6, and you could either do like mental or physical moves, and like the mental moves were like Inferno and the or Disco, and like the physical moves were Inferno, and whatever you want to do was like you roll high or low based on that, and you play this entire world basically just these two skills. But the way it played and the story he crafted and everything was really a lot of fun. But it basically he let you be whatever crazy bullshit you want, and I love being crazy bullshit. So just making a crazy character and seeing what you can do in the world you're like dropped into is fascinating. There's something to be
That's
said for fun role playing, and I think the more fun you can have with it, even if the system itself is basic, but the more that you can do to pushing the boundaries of it, that's where the fun of like role playing really comes in.
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
And especially if you have a group of friends, like a group of friends who you can like rib with each other and actually do role playing with,
Yeah.
like the worst part of role playing is if you have no clue how to interact with people and like people take things too seriously. Like if I want to make a chaotic good character or chaotic neutral character who's just literally going to steal from the party, I want you to act appropriately and like beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like my character is going to do things, and if your character doesn't like it, like don't take it personally as a person. Your character should probably do something about it. Like we had 2 thieves in a group, and I was a fucking paladin. I picked, and they were both like halflings. So I picked both of the halflings up and made them give shit back.
That's awesome.
So after I made them give shit back twice, guess who never told me about their thieving anymore?
No, I could totally see that.
Right. So, and that stuff that they're like, dude, why are you so not cool? I'm like, because paladins are not cool. Like, I literally, like, I am justice. Like, like, but we're stealing from the rich. I know. Don't.
Let's bring it back to Final Fantasy Randomizer for a couple. So we got the co-op tournaments coming up in the fall. That's what they're slowly starting to talk about when spring tournament is over with. Do you have a co-op partner picked out?
Well, the last person that I was a co-op partner with was Zenobian, and I know Ailmarkin has approached me about being co-op partner because he's Ale, I'm Cheese, so to be Team Pub Cheese.
Beer Cheese, that's so good. Beer Cheese Soup, that's your team name.
Right, exactly. So potentially, I gotta talk to Zenobian, find out what he wants to do. I know Team Half a Hat. Or Team Just the Brim was in the makes or in the works. So I gotta figure it out. I don't know if I'll do co-op or not. I did not do the last co-op tournament. Co-op was fun. I've done a couple of races, and I've done one race and like 2 practices with Zenobian, and I thought it was all right. It's a totally different way to play the game.
It is. Well, for those that aren't aware, the co-op game isn't just. It's not like a lot of other co-ops. Like I've watched Zelda and Final Fantasy Free Enterprise, where their co-ops are both teams play the seed at their same time, and while they can share information, they both have to complete it on their own. It's a little more like it's cross-world, but not exactly like it's 2 different worlds. You play on the same seed at the same time, and as you collect key items, there's a server set up that shares the items to the server, and it almost acts like a bag of holding. So you'll go into a dungeon, you'll find, say, the ship. The ship uploads to the server, and then not only do you now have the ship, but your partner has the ship, and if one of you dies, you get to keep the ship even if you didn't walk it out of the dungeon and saved. The co-op for Final Fantasy Randomizer is crazy.
Yeah, Meridian BC did a ton of work on that, on the co-op server and like the Lua script and everything, and it's fantastic.
How about we bring in the 2 people that always play the same game, Final Fantasy Randomizer? We are now joined in the booth along with Guda by Gregory Puff and Danny3883 being guests on this podcast now. How you guys doing?
Who plays different games? What kind of crazy nonsense bullshit is that?
Yeah, who has that kind of fucking time to just play other games? Like, I have like 2 kids and like I work nights. Like, I have no time to do anything but play Final Fantasy Randomizer.
Like, I would like to say that's my excuse for not whatever, but my kid's old enough that she occupies herself and doesn't give a fuck what I'm doing. And I've got more free time than I should have, but I still don't play anything else.
I got 3 kids, 2 of them young. I gotta get out of my mind for a little while. I know I took like a 3-week break in early January and came back and took 2nd place in one of the weeklies, and I was like, maybe I need to take a 3-week break more often. Shit, like get my brain actually right. Also, it might have helped that I stopped drinking for 3 weeks.
That would do it.
Yeah.
Turning your brain into beer cheese soup, as we were just talking about.
I stopped drinking between the 2 beers I just had. So
I'm not like I haven't drank in a while, but I'm prepared. I'm preparing to like make up for it this weekend, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Because that's your birthday coming up this weekend, Danny, and we're going to be doing a podcast recording.
Yeah, March. What is it? March 7th? March 8th. I was close.
March 8th is
It's 8th because I'm the most clever, smart, and awesome person in the world. Look
with
at my
that
Discord name.
3883. She was born March 8th, 1983.
I know, and it's the dumbest thing in the world, but in my head, I know it's my birthday, so I always say it 3883. And it just sounds so goddamn wrong when someone else is like 3883 or some other or 3883. I'm like, no, you're fucking saying it wrong.
See, now I'm gonna have to say it right.
You're lucky that you're from America and not from Europe. Otherwise, they might think you were born in 38.
You know what? I feel like I was born in goddamn 38.
or the third day of August.
No,
yeah.
August.
Yeah. So
that's close to Owen's birthday, so that's something.
Yeah. There's but I'm not sure. We'll have to figure out what time we're doing that on Sunday because the later in the day it gets, the more god awful that's gonna be because we're gonna be fucking hammered.
Well, we are going to get you and Spellzap on for that day, so I can have you and your Final Fantasy husband together for that.
We're gonna have to I hope the hotel there has really good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll be good enough for that, and then just figure out how we'll mic situation. Because I was thinking just use a headset, but if we're both talking, it's gonna pick up weird in the headset. So we'll have to figure it out so it don't echo weird. But yeah. Fun times.
That'll be a great time, and then I'm sure at that point, I say it'll be you and Spellzap, and then I'm sure Gregory Puff and Guda will just jump in and harass you as well. Oh yeah.
Oh, Sunday night, I might have some time Sunday night to be a harasser.
Well, maybe Sunday night. We might aim for earlier in the day before, like I said, me and Spellzap are just fucking hammered.
So is he meeting up with you in person for that?
Yeah,
nice.
We're hanging out on Sunday. Well, my daughter, she had a really that poor kid. She's been through a year, and she's on spring break next week. And I'm like, we're gonna do something fun on spring. And I was trying to figure out some things to do. And in Ohio, there's these really awesome indoor water park.
Yeah,
so that's totally what we're doing. And then it just so happened after that's what we're gonna do. And I went to see when she was on spring break, and it kind of coincided with my birthday. And then next thing you know, whatever, and I'm talking to Spellzap, but I'm next day it's oh hell, you want to come? Sure. So
nice.
And the thing is what the fuck am I gonna do at a goddamn water park? So she's going to go hang out with them, park slides and shit all day, and we're just gonna fucking drink and play video games.
That's awesome.
Yeah, hell of a birthday.
And then do birthday dinner with everybody that night, and then go drink and play more video games.
I mean,
yeah, I'm looking. This weekend's gonna be fun. Looking forward to it.
Gregory, do you have a fucking zoo going on in the background over there?
Probably.
God damn.
He's got kids, as the rest of us with kids can attest. Yes, we fucking live in zoos.
This is why I generally stay in the basement whenever I'm talking on the internet or playing video games or anything that requires me to half-ass pay attention.
That's amazing.
Because even though I'm in the basement, I can still hear them stomping above me, and I know something is happening, but I don't know what. And I'm assuming that as long as the stomping is happening, they're still alive.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I just show back up. They have the TV cranked to 1,000,000. And for whatever reason, I want to turn it down, but they may yell at me if I do that. They have no business being awake as late as they are, but they are. And that's pretty much it. I don't even know.
It's amazing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Zoe
They're
crashed.
still awake?
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoe crashed I don't know, around 9-ish. Yeah, the house is quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, I may just have to go and try to get the. Well, no, I'm going to give I told them until 10:45.
Well, that's good. That's we'll be able to wrap this up soon, and then you can go yell at your kids.
Yeah. And what did you guys talk about? Did you guys talk about Final Fantasy Randomizer at all? Because there's this spring tournament that's happening. FinalFantasyRandomizer.com.
Because if you didn't, FinalFantasyRandomizer.com.
Oh, no.
We'll find out your Final Fantasy Randomizer needs.
I think we looked at test. We spent an hour talking about Final Fantasy Mystic Quest the whole time.
Nice. Mystic Quest.
What's Final Fantasy Randomizer?
Is it randomized?
Final Fantasy Quest you're talking about?
You know, there is actually a Mystic Quest randomizer, and part of me wants to get into it just to see how stupid it is.
I've heard it is awful, and I don't think they've updated it in like over 2 years. So
Perfect. Let's get into this.
And there's still, I think there's still something, not a ton, but there is a significant percentage of seeds that cannot be finished.
Awesome.
Yeah, that blows my mind because the only randomizer I've ever been a part of was the Final Fantasy randomizer, and apparently, according to people that do other randomizers, it's one of the best that exists.
It is. Well, the fact that it's got proper logic. It's got a web interface that you can just use and load your stuff into and just run. Like I'm doing the Chrono Trigger randomizer, Jets of Time, and while that one's easy to use, you have to actually copy it down onto your computer. You have to dump the ROM into it. You have to run it in the background. You have to all the options are like DOS prompt interface, and it doesn't explain anything it's doing, and it only has so many options. Like in comparison to Final Fantasy Randomizer, it's just stripped down.
Tripper's done great work on Final Fantasy Randomizer.
Yeah.
And like I said in the previous thing, it is the definitive way to play the original Final Fantasy game. If you want to see Final Fantasy the way it should have been programmed back in 1989 or 1987 when they released it on the Famicom, this is the way it should have been done.
The seer need to get good.
Yes.
Yeah, faster speed, spells that actually work, classes that are more balanced. I mean, it's
like I know they mentioned like a turbo, but like we really are as a community. Like we fucking lucked out with the goddamn devs that we have.
Yes. Oh, the devs are glorious.
They are amazing. Not only are they amazing at all the work that they've done, but somebody goes in and just throws out some batshit crazy idea, and they're like, "Fuck it, let's try it." Next thing you know, we have a new flag. So.
Yeah, cursed and blessed items.
Weapons.
Yeah, that is the best.
I love that.
That is the best thing that has come to the randomizer in probably a year.
It confuses the holy fuck out of me, and I'm like, well, I don't know how much better or worse it makes it, but whatever.
Fucking gear, man. You got to know that fucking. You got to know that iron or whatever has certain amount of absorb, man. Or the things that
copper plus 5 is 2 less than gold minus 4. Who knew?
Saturday, that fucking light axe plus 5 fucking did work.
I love
anything plus 5 is nuts because of the crit percentage. That's why I'm like, Masa minus 5. This is awful.
Yeah, fuck that.
Nothing.
I love
but it still does a base damage of like 46. I'm like, holy shit, that's right.
Yeah, I love the seed I saw that had the Excalibur plus 5, and like normally at a certain point we're like, fuck Excalibur. There's better swords out there, but no, Excalibur plus 5.
Beat me.
Yeah,
if you put a 5 on that bitch and swing for the fences.
Yeah, no,
because Excal 5 was better than Vorpal 3.
Yeah,
Boo.
It was blasting chaos for like 1,200 damage a hit, and you're like, oh my god, where did this fucking sword come from?
Right.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind some of those weapons on like the spring tournament seats I've been running because goddamn, if you don't find a sword, Jesus.
I feel like
I was like. This is my GDQ run. It took me goddamn forever to get through Topher with that fucking sun sword.
Oh. Yeah, no.
You just need fast and temper and bonk and you're good. That's why bonk is incentivized.
I know.
Stand there in front of Tia while they're casting Bane at you and go, see my bonk!
Yeah, I feel like...
I did. I tried.
I feel like that's one of those features that once it comes out of alpha and beta and just is on the main side of something you can just pick, the blessed and cursed items is going to become just an essential part of the randomizer. Because it's so interesting what it does to the game and makes you rethink all the strategy without like necessarily breaking the game completely.
You say that, but then there's people like me who don't fucking know like how most of that shit works normally.
You'll figure it out.
I'm fucking winging it. And that's with normal shit. I'm just going to be doing the same thing with the other ones. Like, all right, let's see how this works, because I don't fucking know.
So that's why the last time I played with it, when Dangwoo beat me, I went into status a couple times, because I'm like, I don't know which is better, like this or this. Time to check the status.
I know, like, sometimes I'll do that, but in a race, I'm going to do that. I'm already slow enough. I'm not checking status.
Status? You talking status?
What the fuck is status?
All right, well, we've been going for another hour plus at this point, so I think it is probably time to wrap this up at this point. You guys have any final thoughts you want to share before we bring this to a conclusion?
As a community, we got spring tournament coming up. Sign-ups are done on March 15th, and spring tournament should start really quickly after that. We're fast approaching 53 people to do 6 weeks of Swiss.
Looking to probably start on March 17th.
Yeah, probably.
So that's gonna be exciting. And in the meantime, we have the Iron Goal Heavy Metal Championship. You just come on, join in with that.
Our version of SRL, basically.
And come on over to the randomizer, join in the community, pop in the Discord. You can hang out with the 4 of us because we're all cool people. And there are a shitload of other cool people who are at the Discord as well. And if you don't want to race, you can always watch. We have a spectator role. And if you don't want to race or watch, you can always do comms because we're always looking for people to do comms. Or Danny will train you how to track because she's the best at that.
Yes. She is fantastic. Danny is the best tracker that we have.
Aw, thanks, guys.
Also, give us all a follow on Twitch because we like to
do not
like to
follow
play.
me on Twitch.
Oh, now I'm following her on Twitch. I absolutely am.
No. nobody needs to watch that shit.
You're right, Danny. We don't want to watch it. We want to listen to the potty mouth, which is really what the show is.
Glorious.
Yeah,
100% glorious.
Well, if that's the case, you might not be wrong, because...
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody more potty mouth than me, except for Danny.
Except for Danny. Oh,
except
like
for
a
Danny.
sailor.
She is like every word is a fuck shit fuck. It's pretty incredible.
How dare you, sir?
How dare you?
See,
Ma'am.
she didn't do it, Greg. She can be a proper lady.
Oh,
Yeah,
bullshit.
she's a proper lady. Bullshit.
I couldn't, as a joke, I couldn't even say that I could act like a proper lady with a straight fucking face.
Good. All right, well, guys, I want to thank all of you. My interview guest, Guda632, as well as the people who have spontaneously jumped into the booth with him, Greg Lee Puff, and Danny3883.
Nailed it.
And apparently, Greg Lee Puff's entire family in the background as well.
Yep,
This has been
they're all here.
This has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. I am Mike Finkelstein, and we will see you next time.